Alright, what's up guys? This is going to be my updated fighter guide. I guess updated because I updated it before. But you get the point. This is going to be for the new patch, patch 1 I guess they're calling it, since this is the first real patch. And the other ones before were hot fixes. And in this guide, I'll be doing pretty much exactly what I did in the other guides. I will go over the current meta builds that I think, as well as talk about some of the stats and armor choices and weapon choices that I think you should go for. I won't be talking about too much in-depth fighter stuff as a class. Like I said, I'll be sticking mainly to talking about build stuff, and obviously I'll go into a little bit. But if you want to see any other things that I don't talk about in this video, like more in-depth fighter stuff, like how to play fighter, gameplay-wise, positioning-wise, etc., stuff like that, check out some of my other videos that I have. I have like several videos that I've done on either positioning, fighter as a class, guides, stuff like that. So if there's anything in this video you are missing or that you want, feel free to check those out. Alright, to start things off with, I will just go over perks and everything really quick. Not much has changed here. We have all the same perks. None of them have been buffed or nerfed. Like, obviously, everything's still the same. If you're starting out, what I recommend going, let's say, for example, like, we're just going to say level 5, right? You just started the character, brand new. What I recommend is you take Sprint, Second Wind, always, and then for your first perk, Weapon Mastery. The reason you take this is because it allows you to use a bow that you can get either from killing a ranger or picking up. And if you get a bow, it makes your PvE much, much easier. However, later on, whenever you get access to crossbows, you can take this off, because crossbows obviously are a native fighter weapon, so you don't need it. And then, as you're leveling up, one of the next perks you want to put on, it obviously depends on what weapon you're using, but assuming you're using sword and shield, a really good one to put on is Shield Mastery. Or, if by the point you're here, you've reached level 5, you're wearing armor, and you've got, let's say you got full plate on, you run Swift. Swift is very good. Also, at this point, if you have, a crossbow, like I said, or if you just don't feel the need to use a bow or don't want to use one, you could take Weapon Mastery off, put on Shield Mastery, Defense Mastery, Combo Attack, Counter Attack, Barricade, Projectile Resistance. These are all very good options. The only ones that are very situational to use, or that you're not going to use at all, are Slayer, Dual Wield, and Adrenaline Spike. Adrenaline Spike is useless. You will never use this. There is no build that this is useful in. Dual Wield, I will go over this, and a Slayer, I will go over this in a second. Okay, and this is for a traditional starting fighter as you're leveling up. Next time, Defense Mastery. You see this? My Defense Mastery is giving me 6% damage reduction here. It's actually, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is quite a bit. So that's your level 10 perk. And generally, your last one that I think is the best will be Shield Mastery. The reason Shield Mastery is so good is because if you read it here, it says it increases your movement speed while you're in defensive stance, which is true. And upon successfully blocking an attack, the next block is 50% faster, which also is true. However, what it doesn't say is after you block an attack, your next attack will also be 50% faster. So you get a block off, and your next swing is coming out 50% faster, which is really good. It's a really good damage increase, and it's really nice for slower weapons like a Falchion that has a slow attack speed on its own. Okay, and I think these are your perks. Obviously, like I said, at this point, you're going to have a crossbow, so you'll take Weapon Mastery off. And you could put on, I like Projectile Resistance. I think this is a very good option. However, if you don't want to run this, you can run Barricade for some really cheap armor, or you can run Counter Attack. Combo Attack is not as good because I assume it's a bug, but it's worked like this for as long as I can remember. So it says physical attack bar temporarily increases by 10% with each successful melee attack within 2 seconds. However, for this to activate, you have to hit them twice. You hit them once, nothing happens. You hit them a second time, it starts, but then you don't actually get the 10% damage increase until your third swing. So for the most part, this isn't that useful, because especially if you're using something like a two-handed, because generally speaking, that third hit, they're probably already dead before you get to it. Unless it's a barbarian or another fighter, a ranger, rogue, none of them are living 2 hits. It's just not going to happen. Unless you're hitting 2 arm hits, which is unlikely to begin with. And even then, the 10% extra damage isn't going to be the deciding factor between whether or not you kill him. So I think your best option here, for me personally, is I really like to run Projectile Resistance. This helps versus Rangers, and it helps versus Wizards. Because Fireball, Magic Missile, and Ice Bolt all count as projectiles, so they do get 10% less damage from this. However, Counterattack is another good option. The thing about this that's really good is the attack speed doesn't really matter. It's not going to be that useful most of the time, because if you're blocking an attack, generally you're blocking to stay on the defensive. However, this does have some nice synergy with the Shield Mastery effect that I talked about earlier. So if you can block an attack for the next 3 seconds, you're swinging very fast, or even 10% faster for, like pretty much 2 seconds, 50% faster for 1 with the Shield Mastery perk. But the main thing about this that's really good is if you're chasing someone and they turn around and let's say a Barbarian throws a Francisca, a Rogue throws a throwing knife, Ranger shoots a bow, etc., etc. They throw anything at you, you block it, and now you have 10% more movement speed to help you chase them down. So it honestly is pretty nice, and I have used it myself. But I think projectile resistance is just the most value you get. It's pretty much good in every single game you go into, and it's never going to feel useless. It's never going to be a downside of this. And then for your skills, honestly, most of these skills are useless. The only other option here to really run is Adrenaline Rush, and this isn't very good with a plate fighter because this isn't attack speed doesn't really do much for you. These all kind of suck. Taunt's bad. Victory Strike is bad. Perfect Block is literally the worst skill in the entire game. And Shield Slam is very bad. Very short range, very low damage. It's just honestly, these two are just way too good. Breakthrough actually does have some use. I've tested it. A very, very niche but very good use for Breakthrough is if you get Earthquaked by a Cleric and you pop Breakthrough, it removes the Earthquake debuff, so you take no damage walking through it. And it's actually really, really cool. However, like I said, Sprint and Second Wind are just way too good to ever give up. And unfortunately, that's just kind of how it works. Alright, and this right here is obviously a very traditional Sword and Shield fighter build. However, let's say you don't want to run Sword and Shield. Let's say you want to run two-handed like a Halberd, or even I'll talk about Longsword specifically because Longsword's a bit different. So something interesting is, well, let me go back to my class. So you see how this says defensive stance, right? Defensive stance. So this is successfully blocking. Defensive stance. So defensive stance doesn't just mean blocking with the shield. The longsword's parry, like when you're holding your sword up to go for the parry, counts as a defensive stance. So longsword gets the effect of shield mastery, all effects, even the extra attack speed. So for example, if you parry an attack, your riposte will come out 50% faster, which is very, very fast, because normally it's pretty slow. It can catch people off guard. You get the extra 50 armor here when you're blocking, and you can get the effect for counterattack as well, even though this says blocking, because if they hit your sword, it counts as blocking an attack. So longsword actually can use this exact same build, but generally, if you run longsword, you are going to wear counterattack here. Or my bad, not counterattack. You're going to run either barricade or counterattack. Generally, but you have to run shield mastery, absolutely. It's definitely the best thing. And both of these are very good. Barricade's very nice because if you're going for it and you miss, you have 50%, you're at 50%, excuse me. You have 50 more armor that's helping you take that hit that you missed the parry on. Alright, now with that being said, onto an actual two-handed weapon that you have to change your build for. So since you're running two-handed, that's not longsword, you take shield mastery out because you're not using one. And in its place, even though I talk so much trash about it, you're going to run combo attack and you're going to run projectile resistance. The reason for this being is, honestly, none of these other perks work for you. Like, literally, you can't use this one, and I can't use this one. This is only good for a bow, so it doesn't really matter. Can't use this, can't use this, can't use this. So your only options are Weapon Mastery and Adrenaline Spike as alternatives, and this perk is useless because if you drop below 15%, you're either gonna die, or the 15% action speed is probably not gonna change anything. All of a sudden start swinging 15% faster below 15% HP is not the deciding factor in a fight. I'm going to be honest with you. Weapon Mastery, like I said, this is only good for bows if you're going to use a bow. In this concept, you could also, excuse me, yawning. You could also use it for Crystal Sword, but Crystal Sword Fighter is not good. Don't build it, please, I'm begging. But yeah, so if you're running two-handed, this works for Spear or Halberd. You're going to run combo attack, and you're going to run projectile resistance. Something to note about combo attack with these weapons, like Halberd, for example, is this doesn't count as it's not one stack per attack, it's one stack per enemy hit. So, for example, if you swing and you hit two people at the same time, you instantly get to 2 hits, and then that next hit that you go for will have the 10% damage increase. And on a high damage weapon like Halberd, 10% is actually a lot. It could end up netting you upwards of like 15 to 20 damage for your swing, which is actually a pretty big deal. Alright, and now onto the next build. I'm sure you guys see it. I do have a Lantern and a Falchion equipped here. And the reason for this being is I've actually been testing out a new build. I'm not going to say this is meta. I'm not going to say this is good. I'm just going to simply put this out there. If you would like to test it yourself, if you have tested it, feel free to tell me. I'm, like I said, this is just personally something I'm testing that I think feels very good. And this is pretty much, it's like a Slayer build, but without running Slayer. So you see Slayer here, it says cannot equip plate armor, but you gain 5 weapon damage bonus with holding a weapon in each hand. And what that means is you have to hold a weapon here and you have to hold a weapon here. However, you see slot type, Lantern actually does count as a secondary weapon. So this does actually activate Slayer, and it also actually activates dual wield. And Lantern just got a buff this patch, so you see Lanterns have movement speed. It's not negative, it's a positive, so it gives you move speed when you're holding it. So for example, if I'm holding this Lantern, this Falchion's really only giving me minus 19 move speed, so I'm actually 2% faster with it, because each 3 move speed is 1% move speed. You see here, I'm 85.7. I take it off. Okay, well, I'm not in game, so you can't see it. I'm sorry, it's late. I'm tired. But this is about 2% move speed, so I'm getting a bit faster, even though I'm holding this out. So pretty much what this build is you're gonna stack certain plate armor, and you're gonna go for the stat heavy leather. So the thing about this heavy leather is it actually has a ton of armor. So you see this has 36, and if I go to the armor, let's look at these plate. These blue plate pants only have 41. They only have 5 more armor than these. But the thing is, these inherently give strength. These give stats, which these don't, as you see right here. These aren't giving any stats other than the ones they roll. These are giving me base strength stats plus their rolls. So this is much, much better to run. It's the same case for these. You see these are giving 10 armor. Look, these white ones only 19. These gray ones only 18. It is a bit more. You see, it's like these right here from gray to gray. It's 8 armor, which to be fair is a little bit. However, once again, these give 1 strength and they scale upwards to 3. Once I get purple gloves, the armor rating is actually very minimal. It's only around 6 to 7 armor rating, I think, difference between purple riveted and purple heavy gauntlets. However, these riveted gloves are going to give me 3 strength, just base. That's just always going to give me that. So between these two pieces here, you're getting 6 more strength had you been wearing plate. And you're only going to miss out on about 1 to 2% damage reduction realistically. Maybe 3%, but it won't be much more than that. And trading 3% damage reduction for 6 strength is easily a good decision. That's 12 HP. That's extra damage you're doing. That's less strength you have to invest into with either your jewelry or your cape. It's really nice. Plate boots, same reason. That movement speed is low. However, they give you inherent strength, plus 3 strength. So from your boots and your legs and your gloves, these right here at purple rarity are going to give you 9 free strength just for having them equipped. Completely ignoring any other rolls you have, this is 9 free strength. You talk about jewelry, add 3 here for purple rings. That's 15 right there. A cape, 18. Pendant, add 3 or 4, 21 or 22. That's 22 stats you're getting just from base gear. Completely ignoring the rolls on any of this, just from base level stuff, you're going to get 22 strength, and that will put you at 37. You will be 37 strength with completely ignoring all the rolls on your gear. And then obviously if you get like strength rolls or agi rolls, it bumps that up even higher. Also, something else to mention is you see here it's only a negative 8 move speed, which is a pretty big difference compared to these. These are minus 18. That is a 3% movement speed difference. Slightly above 3%, but it's a 3% movement speed difference in these. And then these riveted gloves, it's only minus 2, but hey, that's almost 1% right there. Not to mention these both have minus magic resistance. These don't. So overall, even for any build, this is not just for this build I'm talking about now, but for any build you go for on a fighter, heavy leather legs and riveted gloves are guaranteed your best in slot for these two. If you're not playing Slayer, plate boots, guaranteed best in slot. Then, onto the chest and the head. Houndskull, still the best helmets. Armet used to be a close second. However, they did actually nerf Armet's headshot damage reduction. It's only 15% now. It used to be 18%. They did give Armet resourcefulness, but that doesn't really matter. Houndskull is just so much more armor, and it's another 5% headshot damage reduction, which is amazing. And then for the chest piece, Find Curious is an option. I personally think Find Curious is fine to run. Get it? I mean, no pun intended, obviously. However, Dark Plate is a very, very good option now as well. As you see here, look at this blue Dark Plate. 87 base armor rating compared to this 101. That's only 14 less. However, 45 magic res here, and it's minus 10 here. So you're getting 55 magic resistance for losing 14 armor. And if you get like a good roll, like this one has 9 armor rating, that's even less. So I definitely think Dark Plate is certainly probably the best option. So you want to aim for something like, I'm not going to buy one because it's early and I'm broke. But you want to aim for something like this right here with a Dark Plate for your chest piece. That's going to give you a ton of stats. It's going to give you way more move speed. And this, like I said, this is just your general armor for pretty much all purposes. This be two-handed, dual wield, sword and shield, whatever you decide to play on fighter. This right here is your best armor. Like I said, honestly, Find Cuirass is like I said, it's good to run. If you don't care about min-maxing and you just want to play the game, Find Cuirass gives you a ton of free armor. Not much downside. I mean, obviously, it's minus magic resistance, minus move speed, but everything is except Dark Plate. It's not a giant downside. Dark Plate is definitely the best in slot. However, that's really only going to matter if you're trying to min-max. And if you're at low gear levels, it's not going to make much of a difference. It's not going to be a noticeable one, at least. So, with that being said, moving on to what I was talking about before with my weapons, I'm actually running Falchion Lantern here with no Slayer because, like I said, I want to run this. And what this does is it lets you go dual wield, and it gives you more move speed. So basically, you're playing like a semi-Slayer build is what I'm going to call it. Because you're really fast, and you do good damage because you have more attack speed, and you're using Falchion, which is actually really high base damage. And I'm going to get to why I'm using Falchion in a minute as well. So Falchion, which is good at base damage, but you're not squishy like a Slayer would be. You have a ton of defense from all of this plate that you're wearing, specifically Houndskull, Find Cuirass, and these right here are giving you a ton of stats. So you have good move speed, you've got really good stats, you've got really good tankiness, and you've got pretty good damage. Obviously, you're going to do a bit less than Slayer, because Slayer would give you 5 more weapon damage. However, not much you can do about that. If you run Slayer, then you're going to obviously, like, for example, like, let's say I swapped to this padded tunic. I'm literally losing almost 70 armor. Let's look at I had 47.5. If I put this on, I go all the way to 31%. So swapping that off is definitely much, much weaker. I was playing earlier, and I had a build with this right here, just better armor, and I was up to like 63% damage reduction. So it's definitely easy to hit pretty high amounts. And also, something else is they changed the curve recently, so high armor rating is a bit harder to get. Like once you get to that 60 to 70% range, it's kind of hard to get higher than that. Just because, like I said, they changed the armor rating. And they lowered damage reduction curve or damage reduction rolls. Like you see here, 0.9%. I'm pretty sure you can only roll up to 1% because I've seen all the way down to 0.1% damage reduction, which is basically nothing. So getting very high ranks is actually going to be pretty difficult. So I do think going full plate is just not worth it anymore. I think getting around 65 to 70% is kind of the sweet spot, and then you're just going to pretty much try to stack stats. Obviously, if you can go above that, it is good. However, I think it's going to be very difficult, and it's not going to be as rewarding to do so. Alright, on to the weapon choice. I am using a Falchion. I have been preaching the Arming Sword for the longest time. I'm sure if you watch my videos, you know I love the Arming Sword. It's one of my favorite weapons to use. However, look at this thing. 27 damage on a green. And I've seen purples with 29 damage on a purple Arming Sword. That is so bad. Like, this right here is only 32. However, I had a blue earlier that rolled up to 37, which means purples can probably roll about 39. I doubt they can roll 40, but honestly, I'm not sure. Actually, you know what? Here, I'll pop in the fighter chat while I'm talking about this, just to see if anyone posts purple Falchion, so I can, which is like green Falchion 33, blue Falchion 36. This is 7 damage higher than a purple Arming Sword. And yeah, you can say, well, Todd, Falchion's always had higher base damage by a good margin. Like, why is it a big deal now? The reason it is because okay, for example, let's say if I hit for 100 damage, and then the other one hits for 110 damage. It's a 10 damage difference. However, it's not really going to change much. I'm pretty much always going to two-shot people at that damage range. And now let's break it down. If I'm hitting for 40 damage or 45 and the other's hitting for 55, 60, 65, that is a much bigger difference between the two. And that's the difference between 2 to 3, like two-shotting someone or 3-shotting someone, which actually comes down to a very large amount. Because even if I'm hitting for 40, like look at this, 38 damage. This is almost 10 damage higher than a purple. And just for reference, each point of weapon damage is about 2 damage. So if I had a purple with 28 damage, I'm not sure if it can roll. I think 29 is the minimum. But let's say I had a purple with like 28 or 29 damage. This Falchion would literally be hitting for almost 20 damage more. And that is a very big difference. That's unironically the difference between 2 to 3 shotting, 4 shotting even. Like at this point with the Arming Sword, if you're not getting all head hits, it would be very, very easy to not kill somebody in 4 hits. Like a Ranger with Strength stack, if you hit him in the arm and the chest, it might take you 4 or 5 hits to kill him, which is ridiculous. Falchion, however, yeah, you're more likely to hit arms, but if you're hitting for much harder, those arm hits are going to do more. And if you do get a headshot or body shots in, it's doing a lot more. So for that reason, I decided to go with the Falchion. Even if it is a bit slower, I do think the Falchion's much, much better now. Like I said, the Arming Sword is just so weak. It's really hard to get good use out of it, and I don't recommend using it. It still has the better moveset, and all the benefits it had before, yes, they're all still true. Better moveset, swings faster, lets you block faster after swinging, which is another thing. I don't have a shield, so I don't need to block faster. But honestly, the damage drop-off now is just they hit it so hard. It's so difficult to really use Arming Sword and feel good. I was trying earlier, and I was hitting with a purple Arming Sword. I was hitting for like 55 to 60. And I was just like, this is awful. And those were on headshots on the dummies. And it's like, this is awful. If I was hitting a real person, I might be hitting for 50 with a headshot, even less. Picked up a Falchion, and I have not looked back. Another choice is actually the Viking Sword. Honestly, maybe even a mace at this point. I haven't tried the mace out, but maybe mace is even pretty viable at this point. I think the Arming Sword is definitely really hard to use now. I think Falchion's probably the best sword, followed by the Viking Sword, and then maybe even a mace. A mace could be pretty viable here. I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I haven't done much testing on this myself, but I do think the mace has potential. It does have armor pin, which is good for fighter v fighter matchups, and it's good against barbs because they're going to be stacking armor. So I think I might do some more testing with this, but I think this actually might have some pretty good viability. And also, what I was talking about for like the Slayer build earlier, you see this piece of armor right here. These have their legs, they have 3 strength. Like, look at the stats on these: 38 armor, 3 strength, and then you can get like 14 armor rating rolls. So this piece right here is giving me 52 armor, and it's giving me 9 HP because it rolled 3 max HP. So like, this is insane. And you can get pretty much like this right here on all of your. You can get riveted gloves like this, and you can have so many stats. It'll be insane. But anyways, I do actually like this build. I do think this build has some sort of viability. I will continue testing, and if I find out it's awful, then I will obviously correct myself in a later video. But I tried it earlier. I was having a ton of success with it. You're not quite as tanky as if you're going to run a shield, and obviously you don't have the benefit of having a shield, so you can't block attacks, can't block arrows, can't block spells, which does require you to play a different way. However, I don't think it's bad. I think it definitely has some merit, and I would recommend you guys try it. Let me if you do. Let me know how it goes. Tell me if you like it. Tell me if you hate it. If it's good, I'd love to hear about it. If it's bad, I'll probably figure it out for myself. But I would like to try to. I would like this build to work. So maybe I'm just coping. Maybe I just want this build to work a lot. But on the bright side, Fighter is not locked into Sword and Shield anymore. I don't think Sword and Shield's that good, for the reasons being the weapons aren't that good anymore. They nerfed your damage a lot for one-handed. Like I said earlier, Arming Sword is pretty much useless, and Falchion damage isn't that high. It's still pretty high comparatively to Arming Sword, but it's not as high as before. So if you're using Sword and Shield, I'm pretty sure you have to use Falchion. Otherwise, you're going to be absolutely no threat to anyone, and you really are just going to fall in a tank role. That's why I do think two-handed. I think either two-handed or a very geared Slayer build might be the best way to go in terms of meta-wise. And keep in mind, I haven't stated it, this is specifically for trios. I'm not talking about for solos. I don't play solos. I don't know solos. So none of my build advice is really for solos. Everything I say is in reference to trios. And with that being said, I do think the 2 meta builds, just right now, because obviously this is early on in the patch. Things could definitely change. I could get new information. People could innovate with new things. I think two-handed or a very geared Slayer. And I mean actual Slayer, not this build. I'm talking full Slayer. Oh. So like you put you put this on, you run full Slayer, run combo attack, and then you go full Slayer, full damage, because it's like this is gonna make your weapons hit much harder. And like I said, I was talking about how heavy this, like if you get full leather armor like this, like heavy leather here, riveted gloves here, a regal gambeson here, and either rugged boots or heavy boots here, and then obviously leather cap sucks, but leather cap here. If you get a good one that has all armor rating rolls or like health rolls, you can actually be very, very tanky. You can definitely hit 60-65% damage reduction without too much effort and too crazy of gear. And if you get that, you're going to be pretty damn tanky, and you're going to be hitting pretty damn hard. So like I said, I do think that build actually does have some very good use. I think the gear requirement is a bit harder. I think you can run a build like this right here. Like obviously, like this build, literally all it requires is just default gear, a lantern, and a falchion. You can go buy a lantern from this guy for 25 gold. You can go to the weaponsmith, white falchion, 25 gold, green 150. Like, it's not that hard. Also, this is what I was referring to earlier. Purple arming sword, 29 damage. That's absolutely awful and is depressing to see. Okay, I think that just about covers everything, though. I guess I can talk about fighters. So, at a first glance, I don't think fighter's awful. I think one issue with fighter right now is he kind of got his damage lowered drastically. However, everything else did too, except for magic damage. And one of the problems is wizard's still very good, cleric's still very good, and now we have warlock as well. I haven't spoken about it, but now we have warlock to deal with as well. And if any of you have ever run into warlocks in like goblin caves or trios, you know that warlock is very hard for fighter to deal with. They can pretty much just kite you forever, and now they have way more tools to do it with. They're not just locked to their old 4 spells. They can hit you with like a eldritch orb or orb of darkness or whatever their little beam is called. They like throw at you. They can summon a hydra on you. They can do all these crazy things that makes it very hard for a fighter to play the game and does a lot of damage to you. So I do think fighter isn't going to be the best character. I think he's probably not going to be bad. One thing about fighter that I do think is actually going to be pretty good is I think Barb is currently the best character in the game, and I'll make a tier list video probably tomorrow where I talk about this. I think Barbarian is super, super OP, like incredibly so, because all of these changes I talked about, like this leather armor, getting more armor rating and all that, directly buffs Barbarian because it directly makes them tanky, and it gives them more stats. Also, with all the magic damage still being good, Barbarian's the best counter to that, so naturally people are going to be playing more Barbarian. Honestly, even I've been playing Barbarian. You see this? I haven't even been playing Fighter. I've been playing Barbarian all day. Also, unironically, this Lantern buff, it's a Barbarian buff. It's great because they can chase you down faster. But like you see this, I'm 38, 21, 36, 40%. I'm not even in good gear. Like I'm in random blues and greens with no defensive stats or anything on them really. So it's going to be super easy for Barbarians to get stats, super easy for them to get tanky, and they are going to run around in the game. And the reason Fighter is pretty good is because Fighter can semi-counter Barbarian. I will say semi because, unfortunately, Warmaul does exist, and Warmaul has 30% armor pen. And 30% armor pen makes Fighter's lives very, very bad. However, the best way to deal with them is to use two-handed like a halberd, and you can range them. You can keep them at range, hitting them and slow them down enough where they can't get in range to warm on you. However, if they get buff-balled on you, like by a wizard, and they get invis and they get in range, you are pretty much just gonna die most of the time. You just kind of have to play around that and prevent it from happening. However, with that being said, I think Fighter is not in the best place, like I said a minute ago. It's not in the worst place, and it is playable. The best part about it is there is build variety right now. The fact that I can use a Lantern Falchion and it feels good is awesome to me. Like, I had a ton of fun running the build earlier. I did die with it, but that wasn't the build's fault. It was like a team issue. Not like my team was bad or anything. We just had miscommunication, and we weren't together. But anyways, I think that about sums it up for the video for now. If I did miss anything, feel free to comment, ask questions. I love to read comments. I always answer questions to the best of my ability. Usually. Like 99% of the time, I'll answer your questions. Or like, if nothing else, I'll read the comment. I literally read every single comment that you post. Like every single one, I promise. It's awesome. Even the mean ones, because they're funny. I laugh at them all the time. But like I said, that will pretty much be the fighter guide. If I get new information, or if I find out something I've said is wrong, or there's a new OP build, I will make another video about it and I'll talk about it. I'll probably do it again in like another week or something, because I think they've said that they haven't implemented all the biggest changes they want to, and they're going to be coming in a future patch. So I do think fighter will get some love soon. Our class literally has gotten nothing in like months and months, even since before early access. Like in the old playtest, fighter is pretty much the same since like playtest like 3. I think all they've added was Slayer at one point, and I mean that's all. Like we have no new skills, no new perks. Like everything sucks. Not really, but I think fighter's gonna get some changes soon. I'm very excited for it, but this is completely just my own speculation. But anyways, like I said, feel free to leave comments, and if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe. I am actually almost at 1,000 subscribers, which I think is freaking awesome. I started making videos like a month and a half ago just for fun, because I stream on Twitch, right? And I was like, okay, I mean, I'll just like upload take a clip from Twitch and take a run for Twitch and upload it, or, like make a guide, upload it, and I remember talking to my friend. I was like, yo, how many views do you think this is gonna get? I was like, oh, it'll probably get I think it'll probably get like a couple hundred. Like it would be crazy if I got like 1,000. And that guide literally has 18,000 views right now, which is just mind-boggling to me. I never thought I'd be getting to about 1,000 subscribers, which I'm about to hit in probably a day, which is insane. But I just want to say thank you all for watching, liking, commenting. Like I said, I love reading them. Thank you for subscribing. It's awesome, and thank you guys for all the support. And yeah, till next time, boys. Peace.